Hello, you're on the Reddit Reveals channel. I was the husband sitting at table 9. Not the fun table near the dance floor. Not the family table close to the bride. No, the weird one in the corner, by the fake fireplace and the emergency exit. The table where they send the obligations. Where the lighting's just dim enough to hide your expressions, and the music echoes in a way that makes laughter sound like it's happening underwater. I wasn't supposed to be at that wedding. Not because I wasn't invited. I was. Technically. But no one really wanted me there. Least of all my wife. She was the maid of honor. I was the afterthought. They said it was a small ceremony, but there were 84 guests. I counted. I had time. You tend to count things when you're trying not to watch your wife dance like she's 16 again. Wild, free, no wedding ring in sight. And especially not when she's dancing like that, with a man who is very much not her husband. Let me say this clearly. She didn't cheat on me at that wedding. She'd already done that part. She was just rehearsing how good it felt to do it in the open. I'd found the texts 3 nights before. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for our Airbnb check-in info on her phone because mine had died. The message lit up as I unlocked it. You looked so good in that suit today. I almost grabbed your hand during the meeting. Not for me. Not about me. His name? Glenn. Yeah, Glenn. That message hit like a hammer, but I didn't say anything. Not yet. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to know I wasn't crazy. Well, consider this my confirmation. I watched her pull Glenn onto the floor during the 3rd slow song in a row. She smiled at him like she'd waited years for this exact moment. Like her whole world had finally lined up the way she wanted. And me? I sat there, staring, clutching my half-empty glass of flat champagne like it was the only thing tethering me to the planet. People passed by. No one said a word. One of the bridesmaids looked at me and gave a half-sympathetic nod, like I'd just been diagnosed with something terminal. The worst part? I didn't leave. Not then. I stayed. I stayed through the cake cutting, through the speeches, through the bouquet toss. And I watched her keep pretending I didn't exist, like erasing me was easier than facing what she'd done. But I didn't confront her that night. I waited until the next morning, when the dress was back in its plastic bag and the makeup was wiped away and there were no cameras to catch her reaction. And when I finally said what I saw, she didn't deny it. She just said something that still keeps me up at night. But that's part 2. And trust me, it only gets worse from here. She didn't cry. That's what I remember most. When I finally confronted her the next morning, curled up on the edge of the Airbnb bed, dress zipped in a garment bag, heels tossed sideways like forgotten toys, she didn't even flinch. No tears. No shaking voice. Just silence. And then that look. The one that says, "So, you finally caught up." I said her name once. Just once. Quiet. Almost gentle. Paige. And she exhaled like I'd asked her to take out the trash. You saw the messages. Not a question. A statement. Calm. Flat. Emotionless. She didn't even ask which ones. I nodded, though I felt like I was about to vomit. I had rehearsed what I'd say in my head all night. Some powerful, righteous monologue. Something that would make her feel what I felt. Betrayed, erased, hollowed out. But standing there, I couldn't get past that one word. Why? She stared at me for a moment like she was trying to decide if it was worth explaining. And then she said it. The line that broke me more than the dancing, more than the texts, more than anything Glenn could have said to her. I just needed to feel wanted. That's what she said. Not "I'm sorry." Not "it was a mistake." Not even "it meant nothing." She needed to feel wanted. As if I hadn't spent the past year trying to claw my way back into her world. As if I hadn't planned anniversary trips, written dumb little love notes on sticky pads, sat through 2 seasons of a reality show I hated just because she loved it. As if I hadn't kissed her shoulder every morning before leaving for work, even when she turned away in her sleep. I asked her if it was still going on. She didn't answer. That silence. It said everything. You'd think I would have left right then, packed my bag, slammed the door, caught a bus, something dramatic. But I didn't. I sat on the floor of that overpriced Airbnb, back against the closet, and I wept like a kid who just realized his parents are never getting back together. And Paige? She just watched. Not cruelly. Not coldly. Just like she was watching something inevitable happen. Like a candle burning out. I didn't tell anyone that day. Not even Nolan, though I think he sensed something. I kept up appearances. Ate brunch with the wedding crowd. Laughed at jokes I didn't hear. Took photos I'll never look at again. The worst part? She still held my hand. In front of everyone. She gripped it like nothing had changed, like we were still solid, like she hadn't just admitted to emotionally vacating our marriage while I was too busy trying to decorate the ruins. But that night, when we got home, she didn't touch me. She went to bed in her robe, lights off, door cracked just enough to say, "This isn't goodbye, but it isn't love anymore, either." And me? I sat on the couch in the dark, staring at the blank TV screen for hours. Then I opened my laptop, and I started writing this. Because maybe if I tell this story in pieces, I'll be able to understand where I disappeared in it. 3 days after the wedding, I conducted what I now call the red sweater test. I didn't plan it. It wasn't some master strategy born out of revenge or paranoia. It was just instinct, maybe even desperation. I had to know. I had to see it. Not just imagine it from a text message or a glance across a dance floor. So I took Paige to dinner. Nothing fancy, just this little Italian place she used to love back when we still talked about things other than groceries and her work schedule. She wore her red sweater, the one I bought her 3 Christmases ago. She used to say it made her feel soft but dangerous, whatever that meant. I thought it just made her look like the version of herself that still wanted to be seen by me. We ordered wine. She smiled at the waiter more than she smiled at me. When he complimented her earrings, she touched her neck like she was in a movie. I watched every gesture like a detective studying a suspect. I hated that. I hated what I was becoming. This pathetic, twitchy shell of a man, analyzing every blink for signs of guilt. But then came the moment I was waiting for. I excused myself, said I needed to step outside to take a call. I didn't go far. I just moved near the large front window, where I could see her from a side angle, lit by the flickering candle on our table. I waited, and just as I feared, she picked up her phone, smiled, typed something, paused, deleted it, typed again. Then her face dropped. Her entire expression went from flirtatious to hollow, like she'd just seen a ghost. She looked around the restaurant, not frantically, but cautiously. Then her eyes landed on me through the glass. Busted. She froze. I didn't wave, didn't make a scene. I just stared at her, long enough for her to understand that I knew that whatever shred of plausible deniability she was holding on to had just been yanked away. When I sat back down, she didn't speak for a full minute, just picked at her risotto, eyes low, hands still. I asked her one question. Was it him? Her voice cracked, not in sorrow, but in restraint. "Lowell, please." I didn't raise my voice, didn't throw my drink. I just said, "You don't get to play the victim in a story you wrote behind my back." She didn't answer, but I saw the truth in her silence. It was Glenn. Still, and not just emotionally. I asked her if she'd slept with him. She hesitated, then said, "Only once." Only once. As if putting a cap on betrayal made it less corrosive. As if once didn't echo through every moment of my life like a gunshot in an empty house. We didn't finish dinner. We drove home in silence. She cried in the bathroom with the door locked. I sat on the floor outside of it like a fool, listening to her sob, wondering if the pain was for what she did, or just that she got caught. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid in bed beside her, eyes wide open, counting the seconds between her breaths, wondering how 2 people could be that close physically and still feel like strangers on opposite ends of a collapsed bridge. But even then, I still didn't leave, because some part of me, however small, still hoped she'd choose me, still hoped she'd fight for what we had. But the truth? She didn't even know if she wanted to. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I just leave? Why didn't I pack a bag, slam the door, and disappear into the night like the guy in every revenge movie? Trust me, I asked myself the same thing 1,000 times. But the truth is uglier than I'd like to admit. I wasn't strong. I was scared. Not of her. Not even of being alone. I was scared that if I left, she wouldn't follow. And I needed to believe, on some sick, self-delusional level, that she would. That once I was gone, she'd realize what she destroyed. That she'd chase me, beg, fight, do anything to bring me back. Instead, she started locking her phone, changing her passwords, and working late. Every single night. And somehow, I still kept finding excuses for her. She's just overwhelmed. She's ashamed, not malicious. She's figuring it out. But deep down, I knew I was trying to glue back together a vase that had already been reduced to sand. Then came the envelope. It was a Saturday, mid-November, cold enough for breath to hang in the air, but not cold enough for snow. I was driving her car to the mechanic to get the brakes checked. She'd mentioned a squeaking sound for weeks and never got around to it, like everything else lately. The glove box popped open when I turned too fast onto the service road. I reached over to push it shut and saw it. A small, thick white envelope wedged between her expired insurance card and an old granola bar. No name on it. No label. But I knew. I knew before I opened it. Inside, 3 folded notes. Short. Sloppy. One written on a torn piece of legal pad paper. One on the back of a client receipt. One on hotel stationery. The handwriting wasn't hers. I read the first one, and I swear I stopped breathing. Next time, just call out sick. I don't want to share you anymore. The second, you left your scarf. I kept it. Smells like cinnamon and secrets. And the third, the one that made me grip the steering wheel so hard I thought it might snap. Don't chicken out. Say what you want. He'll survive. There was no signature, but I didn't need one. What gutted me wasn't just the notes. It was that she kept them, that she put them in her car, where she could reach for them anytime. As if they were a playlist she revisited when reality got too dull. As if cheating on me was some romantic fantasy she could dip into whenever she needed to escape the boring life we built together. I didn't take the notes. I didn't even confront her right away. I put the envelope back exactly where I found it. Then I got the brakes fixed, paid in cash, drove her car home, handed her the keys, and said nothing. Why? Because I didn't want to interrupt her performance. I wanted to see how long she'd keep pretending, how long she'd keep lying, how long she'd keep kissing me goodnight with the same lips she used to whisper those words to him. But deep down, I was already planning my exit. I just needed one more piece of the puzzle, and I didn't have to wait long. I never meant to follow her. That's the part one still tell myself, even though I'm not sure I believe it anymore. It was a Wednesday, one of those bone-dry, gray-skied midweek days where everything feels slightly off, like you're watching the world happen from behind fogged glass. Paige had said she had a strategy dinner with her creative director and 2 new clients. I nodded, told her to enjoy. She wore a black dress I hadn't seen in months. She didn't ask me how she looked. She used to ask. Every time. I told myself I was going to the hardware store. I even got in the car with the full intention of buying a new sink handle. The one in our guest bathroom had been loose for weeks. But somehow, I drove right past the store, right past the intersection, right down the street she takes when she goes into the city. That's when it happened, the moment that changed everything. At the third light, I saw her car. I recognized the dent near the bumper. Same air freshener hanging from the mirror, the one shaped like a pine tree, even though she hates pine. I should have turned away, driven home, done literally anything else. But I didn't. I followed, block after block, through traffic and into downtown. It wasn't a strategy dinner. She parked outside of a boutique hotel. Not flashy, not romantic, just hidden, discreet. The kind of place with frosted glass doors and no valet. The kind of place where people go when they don't want to be seen. I parked a few spaces down, waited, watched her text someone. Then he came out. Glenn, wearing a navy jacket and that same smug, casual confidence he always carried. Like nothing could touch him. Like life just handed him people like Paige. They didn't kiss. Not outside. But she smiled at him in a way that ripped my stomach in half. Not the smile she gave our friends at dinner parties. Not the polite little grin she saved for my mother. No, this was softer. Almost shy. Like she was meeting him for the first time all over again, and falling just as hard. They walked inside together. No hesitation. No pause. Like they'd done it before. I don't remember driving home. I must have, obviously. The car was back in the garage when I woke up on the couch hours later, still in my jacket, hands numb from gripping the steering wheel. She got home after midnight. Didn't smell like wine or dinner. Smelled like his cologne, the same one I'd joked about months ago when she said it gave her headaches. I pretended to be asleep. She didn't kiss me goodnight. She climbed into bed, faced the other way, and let out a long, heavy sigh. The kind people exhale when they've finally escaped something exhausting. It was me. She was escaping me. And in that moment, I knew something for certain. This wasn't an affair anymore. It was a replacement. And the only thing worse than losing her was realizing she'd already replaced me long before I ever noticed. After that night, something inside me switched off. Not like flipping a light. More like dimming a room so gradually you don't realize you're in the dark until you start tripping over things. I stopped trying. Stopped asking where she was going. Stopped checking her phone, her eyes, her mood. I became a ghost in my own marriage. And honestly, I think she preferred it that way. I started sleeping in the office. Not every night at first, but more and more. I'd pretend I fell asleep editing a spreadsheet or reading something for work. She never asked why, never came in to check. It was like we silently agreed. Separate spaces, separate lives, same mailing address. And yet, I stayed. I cooked dinner some nights. Left hers in the microwave with a sticky note like I was her damn roommate. I still fixed the squeaky door she always hated. Still picked up her favorite oat milk without her asking. I even folded her laundry. And yes, I know how pathetic that sounds. But I wasn't staying because I hoped she'd change her mind. I was staying to watch. I wanted to see how far she'd go, how far she'd fall, how deep the betrayal could bury us before one of us started digging. She didn't know I'd followed her. She didn't know I'd seen the hotel. But she knew I knew something. There's a shift when you've been caught, not in words, but in movements. She walked softer, spoke less. Her phone never left her side, even in the bathroom. And then came the photo. It arrived anonymously. No message, no explanation. Just a plain envelope slipped into our mailbox on a Saturday morning. I thought it was junk until I felt the single photo inside. It was her. And Glenn, sitting on a bench by the pier. Her head resting on his shoulder. His hand on her knee. The timestamp on the photo? 2 weeks ago. The day she told me she was at her sister's helping with wedding plans. I stared at that photo until my hands shook. Then I put it back in the envelope and slid it under her pillow. I didn't say a word. That night, she came into the office where I was fake sleeping on the couch. She didn't say anything either. Just stood in the doorway, holding the envelope in her hand like it had a fuse in it. "You saw this?" she finally asked. I nodded without looking up. She waited a few seconds, then whispered, "Do you hate me?" And for a moment, I wanted to scream. I wanted to destroy the room. I wanted to tell her exactly what it felt like to die slowly beside someone who claims to love you. But instead, I said the most honest thing I could. "No, I don't hate you." I paused. "I just don't recognize you." She didn't cry. She didn't deny it. She just nodded like I'd confirmed something she already knew. And then she left the room. The door stayed open. That was the moment I realized we weren't just breaking. We were already broken. And the only thing left now was the ending. I thought the end would come like a storm, dramatic, loud, crashing through the walls with shattered dishes and screamed confessions. But instead, it came on a quiet Thursday. The kind of evening where nothing feels important, and that's what makes it so dangerous. The dishwasher was humming. The news was playing low in the background. I was making tea. Paige was on the couch, legs tucked under her, scrolling through her phone with a dead expression. We hadn't spoken all day. Not a fight. Just a long, slow silence that had stretched between us for so many days in a row that it no longer felt hostile. It just felt normal. That's what scared me the most. Not the affair, not the lies, but how natural it had become for her to exist beside me without speaking. Like I was a coworker she didn't particularly like, but had to tolerate until 5 o'clock. And then she said it. The sentence that finally broke whatever spell had kept me trapped there, orbiting her like some desperate, lonely moon. "Lowell, do you still want to be with me?" She didn't look up from her phone when she asked it. That was the part that hit me the hardest. She didn't even care enough to watch me lie. And make no mistake, she knew I was going to lie. She was counting on it. She wanted the soft answer. The coward's response. Something vague like, "I don't know," or "I need time." Anything to stretch this purgatory out a little longer. But I didn't give her that. I set the mug down. Slowly, gently, sat across from her, and said the truth with no rage, no venom, no fire. "No, I don't." She blinked. For the first time in months, I saw something in her eyes. Something real. Not guilt. Not sadness. Fear. She put her phone down and leaned forward, suddenly unsure of the game she'd been playing. "Wait, what does that mean?" "It means," I said, "I'm done pretending. I'm done begging you to come back when you've already left. You're not making sense." That's what she said. Like I was the irrational one. Like she hadn't been cheating on me in hotel rooms and lying about it to my face. I laughed. It wasn't joyful. It wasn't even bitter. It was hollow. Like I'd finally run out of emotion to give her. "I stayed, Paige. I gave you every opportunity to come clean. To fight for this. To care. And you just kept pushing and pulling and hiding and lying and hoping I'd be too weak to leave." Her voice cracked. "I didn't think you'd actually." I cut her off. "I know. And that's what destroyed her. Not the shouting. Not some big dramatic betrayal of my own. Just that one quiet truth. She never thought I'd find the strength to walk away. She thought I'd keep orbiting her forever, even as she drifted further and further into someone else's gravity. But something had changed. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even heartbroken. I was just done. She asked if we could talk later. I told her no. She asked if I still loved her. And I said nothing. Because that was her real punishment, not rage or revenge. Silence. Indifference. That night, I packed a bag. Just one. Clothes. A notebook. The red sweater I bought her, which I left folded neatly on the couch. She didn't stop me. Not then. But the next morning, everything changed. I didn't hear from her for 2 days after I left. Not a call. Not a text. Just silence. At first, I thought it was proof. That she really didn't care. That everything we had was just ash now, scattered and meaningless. I sat in the crummy guest room of my coworker's house. Window cracked open, spring rain tapping against the sill, and waited to feel something. But I didn't feel empty. I felt lighter. Like I'd been carrying her weight around for so long. I forgot how to walk without limping. Then, on the third morning, she showed up at my coworker's place. I don't know how she found the address. Maybe from our shared Google account. Maybe she asked Nolan. Either way, she stood there with messy hair, puffy eyes, and a box in her hands. Not a dramatic scene. Not a movie script moment. Just real. I brought your books, she said. And your tools. And that mug you like. I took the box. Set it down on the porch. She didn't move. I'm sorry, she said. Not just for the affair. For everything. For making you feel invisible. For treating your love like something I could just cash in and ignore. I didn't say anything. Not because I was angry. I just didn't need to anymore. She looked down. You were right. I never thought you'd leave. I got so used to you waiting for me. I forgot what it meant to deserve you. Then, something unexpected happened. She smiled. Not sadly. Not smugly. Gently. You don't have to forgive me, she said. But I hope you find someone who never makes you feel like you're too much. And then she left. No tears. No begging. Just a quiet goodbye. That night, I sat with the box she gave me. Inside the mug was a folded note. Handwritten. In the corner, she'd drawn a little cartoon version of me. Glasses, crooked tie, messy hair. Like she used to do when we first dated. The note said, "Thank you for loving me when I didn't love myself. I hope you finally do." And for the first time in a very long time, I cried without feeling pathetic. Because I realized the story didn't end in fire or fury. It ended in freedom. I moved into a small apartment 2 weeks later. Started biking again. Reconnected with my sister, who'd been trying to get me out of the fog for months. I bought myself a ridiculous little lamp shaped like a jellyfish and didn't ask anyone if it matched the decor. And last week, I laughed. A real laugh. Not the polite kind. Not the dead inside kind. The kind that bubbles out before you realize it's happening. It wasn't because of a woman. It wasn't because I got closure. It was because I finally looked in the mirror and saw someone I didn't hate. Someone who had walked through hell and didn't set up camp there. I don't know what Paige's life looks like now, but I know mine. And it's quiet. Simple. Mine. And honestly, that's more than enough.